BBC_WHYS.
Welcome to World Have Your Say.
Yes, welcome. I'm Babita Sharma. It's been 21 months since rebels began fighting President Assad in Syria. The Red Cross says the situation has deteriorated into civil war. Opposition groups say more than 44,000 people have been killed, 31,000 of them civilians. There are unconfirmed reports today that a poisonous gas was sprayed by government forces in a rebel-held area in Homs against the Syrian people. We'll hear from an eyewitness who says he saw people there struggling to breathe. What do you think about the situation in Syria? Is it time for the international community to take a tougher approach in dealing with the crisis? We want to hear from you. Get in touch. Call us now on country code 44 20 31 62 42 42. And we're on Twitter as well. Use the hashtag WHYS.
If you don't want to make an international call, text country code 4477 86 20 60 80 and put "call me" in your message.
Our correspondent Jim Muir is in Beirut monitoring the situation. Jim, just bring us up to date with what you know.
Well, if we're talking about these allegations of use of some kind of chemical gas by the regime, one obviously has to be extremely careful about it because it's a very sensitive moment. The world are watching like hawks, especially the Americans and their allies, for any sign that the regime may be planning to use any sort of chemical weapons. So obviously the rebels are also aware of that. It's very much in their interest to play any such thought up. But there is also quite a lot of evidence coming out on video put out by activists from Homs showing that certainly injuries seem to have been suffered in Homs among the fighters there, specifically in a part of the town called Khaladir, which has been a battlefront for months and months, showing people apparently displaying very distressing symptoms of inhalation of something toxic. Here's what some of those victims sounded like, or at least one of them. Now, he was obviously in some distress. He was heaving, he was convulsing, he was struggling for breath, and the doctors around him, or the medics, were clearly puzzled and really didn't know what this was. They're going on about poison gas, but they don't know what it is. There is speculation in activist circles that it's something called Agent 15, which is apparently some form of nerve gas. Now, obviously, we can't confirm that, but activists are giving the names of 7 people, presumably fighters, who succumbed to that, and they say there's about 50 others who've been affected, a dozen or so of them very severely, and the doctors just don't know how to treat it because they're not sure what it is. So the allegation is out there, the proof isn't.
Abu Rami is an opposition activist in Homs, and Abu, just tell us what you've seen over the last 24 hours there.
Yes, this is our first time that we've been attacked by this kind of gas, with this kind of unknown gas. First of all, we had received about 30 cases, 30 people were affected by this gas. Most of them, the most symptoms of them was the problems with the respiratory system and their nerve system also. Some of them didn't recognize his own people. Another people of them. We have also received some cases. Some of these people has lost their ability to see. That they were blind. So far, we have one confirmed situation that has lost his own eyes. The number of people who killed by this unknown gas was 7 people were killed. We have 12 cases in critical stage so far. Later on, we had received more than 45 cases also. Most of them has been rescued from the members of a failed hospital, but there are a lot of them were not be able to heal them because we have a lot of shortage and a lack of the medical supplies and medical tools in our failed hospitals.
Abu, let me just ask you which hospital you're in at the moment.
Well, at the old Homs district hospitals, we have two failed hospitals here. One in Al Khaldiya, the other failed hospitals is in old Homs district.
And how can you be sure that the people that you've been seeing coming into the hospital have been affected by a poisonous gas attack that you've just described?
Yes, because the failed hospital Al Khaldiya didn't has no space enough for the other cases. So we were forced to transport these cases into the Old Homs district failed hospital. These wounded people, the symptoms of affected are so clear on their body, on their eyes, on their inability to move very clear on the ground. Most of them fall down to the ground, and some of them break his arm because he can't move very well, and some of them are wet, and we were forced to cut his clothes off. So all of these situations we have saw it, and we uploaded many videos from these two failed hospitals to the media through the internet.
And are there people still coming to the hospital reporting that they are victims of this attack?
Well, about 4 or 5 hours ago, and so far, and no new case have came to the failed hospital. The last number were about 65 affected people. 7 of them were died because of this toxic gas. We have 12 people are in a critical stage, and they are under an emergency stage in the failed hospital.
Jim, obviously we have to be very careful because we haven't got confirmed reports that this chemical attack has taken place. But listening to Abu there, a strong case of evidence that may well have been the case.
Well, certainly it sounds like something very strange has gone on. I'd like to ask Abu Rami, I assume most of these victims were fighters from the battlefront. Khaldiya has been a battleground for months and months now. Did they say how this gas was delivered? In other words, did it come from shells fired by tanks or by artillery? What kind of color did they see a gas? And is this the first time that this has happened?
Well, according to some witnesses there from our Syrian rebels there, they said that it was like a bomb were through by the Syrian regime forces there. It caused a kind of white light for the first time, and then it disappeared, this white light, and then they smell something and coming through to their noses. Then the people were starting to falling down into the ground. This is what happened exactly.
And that is the first time you have experienced these kinds of injuries coming into the field hospitals?
Yes, sure. This is the first time, and we were on touch with our doctors, and we were so sure, but we don't have the ability to analyze this chemical gas or this unknown gas. So the doctors said that it seems so likely and to sarin gas, but it's not sarin gas. That's what one doctor said.
Right. And the doctors are able to, are the doctors able to treat them in any way? Because if they don't know what it is, are they just treating like their eyes watering, just treating them with whatever they can, or do they know how to treat injuries like this?
Well, first of all, we cut the clothes of these wounded people. Then the critical stages. The first thing was the oxygen on their mouths,
and but I just will notice for something that the most injuries was on or not on their nature. Most of them were screaming or and nervousing, and they don't know what to say, starting to say something they didn't know. Some of his family came to hospital, but he didn't know them. He said, "Who are you? What are these people? Where am I?" Some cases, of course, and I don't know exactly what the kind of medicines that been put to these people, but most of them were healed now, and he is in a good health. We have at least 12, as I said before, in a critical stage, and I don't know exactly how they been treated.
OK, well, Jim, thank you for that update about what you know was going on. Abi, if you stay with us, I just want to bring in Mohammed Abdul Majid, who is a Middle East media analyst at BBC Monitoring here in the UK. And Mohammed, you're tasked with analysing all the material that's coming into the BBC, trying to verify it. Just give us an idea of the material that you've seen in the last few days.
Well, I've been monitoring the bread shortage situation in Syria. Essentially, when we're looking at this situation, we're looking at three players on the ground. We're looking at the local transitional councils that are attempting to provide alternative governing bodies in some of the Syrian towns and villages. We're looking at the Free Syrian Army, who in the past have tried to provide bread in order to plug the gap. We're also looking at the Islamic groups such as Al-Nusra Front that is quite dominant in the area of in the city of Homs. So if we're looking at the attack on the bakery in the eastern village in the western village of Halfaya yesterday, that seems to be another act of possible desperation on the part of the regime. It seems like something that goes hand in hand with what we've seen in the last few days about the Scud missiles, and it's affecting the bread situation in Syria, sending a lot of bakeries out of operation. We're looking now at prices that are going from a bundle of bread that used to cost 15 Syrian liras now costs 100 Syrian liras. Syrians are increasingly having to make the difficult choice between using fuel for the limited fuel for running bakeries to make bread and or using fuel for heat in the cold winter. So it seems that first of all, the local transitional councils are not able to plug in this gap. It seems also that the Free Syrian Army are starting to distance themselves away from shouldering this responsibility of providing bread. And there are lots of allegations at the moment that the Free Syrian Army has been profiteering instead of subsidizing the prices of commodities. The one that seems to step in more aggressively is Al-Nusra Relief Committee. Al-Nusra Jabhat al-Nusra, which is an Islamic militant group, has set up a relief committee to plug in this gap. And they appear to have the resources and are able to win popular support in some of the Syrian cities. So that's the situation right now with regards to bread shortages in Syria.
Yeah, and Mohammed, we heard of this attack that opposition groups say some 90 people were killed in overnight in a government airstrike at a bakery in central Hama province. Would that, in your assessment, be a direct correlation to everything that you've just told us with regards to really targeting the Syrian people where it might hurt in terms of this bread shortages?
I mean, it's definitely it's hurting obviously the Syrian people in many different ways. We've just mentioned price hikes. It seems to be more of a dominant issue in the rebel controlled areas, and that's where the problem lies, because transitional councils and rebel groups are not able to muster the resources in order to provide for the people in those areas. So it's a tactic used by, I guess, the Syrian army in order to drive the residents in these areas to a point of desperation.
Yeah.
Also to, I guess, affect the popularity of and the support for the rebel groups in those areas, and essentially show that they're not able to carry out the duties that they promised these people when they went into their villages.
Mohammed, thank you very much. Ahmed is in Damascus, the capital of Syria. Ahmed, just tell us how the situation is for you on a daily basis in Syria.
In Syria, in Damascus in particular, there is a lot of desperate feeling in the thinking of the people. Politically speaking, Lakhdar Brahimi mission will be a complete failure. As previous missions, we are experienced to such missions, and we have seen Kofi Annan, and we have seen other, the Al-Arabi also, some others trying to help to have some peaceful mean. But we think it's as previous missions, we think this mission is meant to lose more time and cause more killing, like yesterday's massacre in Halfaya at the bakery, and like what we have today of usage of chemical weapons. There is maybe something like that. We are not sure till now because we are not specialized in this, but maybe because we miss good medical help or medical service. Some of the people affected by this chemical or gas may be taken to Lebanon or maybe somewhere else to check and be confirmed about what's going on. In general, the situation is very desperate in Syria and Damascus, and people are these days feeling more fear and having lots of problems, especially because of the running out of their savings. As I told you before, diesel and gas and food, money even from the people saving is running out, and people are thinking of their shelter, where to go if the government forces attack them and so on. This is very, very difficult, and more fear now because of the chemical usage maybe. We don't know when we will have the salvation for ourselves. And should we hesitate more, we will have more massacres, more killing, more interference this way or the others. The more we wait, the more hands will be given. We should have the salvation if the NATO will not do the help, if NATO will not bombard those guns and airboats using the warplanes to kill the people. Let us have some weapons to help us get rid of it and stop the interference of the other parties you are aware of.
Okay, well, Ahmed, we appreciate you coming on the programme. Thank you very much for that. Lots of you have been speaking to us and posting your views on Facebook. Sanjeev Gupta from Delhi asks, who gave Syria the chemical weapons technology in the first place? I have to say, though, that as Jim was pointing out, our correspondent in Beirut, these are still unconfirmed reports. We're yet to verify whether or not this did take place. But as we heard from Abu Rami speaking to us here, he says that he understands that some 7 or 8 people turned up at a field hospital in Homs with symptoms that were very similar to those that may be attributed to some kind of a poisonous gas attack. But we don't know if that's true. Adrico Sunday from Uganda asks on Facebook, if confirmed, it's already a red line for the intervention of US and Western forces. What are they waiting for? Majid Rafizadeh is an Iranian-Syrian scholar and commentator on Syrian affairs in Washington. Majid, what do you make of what you're hearing?
Well, Babita, I think this is an important development and sensitive issue You probably know Syria is one of the few countries which has not signed the chemical weapon treaty alongside with North Korea and Sudan. But Syria is a party to the 1925 Geneva Conventions, which bans using of chemical weapons at war. Since June 2012, I think the Syrian government has been concerned about any military operation by the West or United States, which would neutralize the chemical weapon. There have been reports that the Pentagon has some contingency military operation that might go inside Syria and neutralize the chemical weapons, so Assad don't use them against his own people. So the Syrian regime has been moving this chemical weapon around in order to obscure the locations of these chemical weapon.
Okay, and I want to try and, if I can, Dr. Yazin Abdullah has been listening to this very intently. He's a Syrian doctor and activist, an opposition activist operating out of London. Doctor, just tell us, as a medical expert listening to all of this, what do you think?
Thank you very much. Firstly, let's look at the political side of the story. For the Syrian government to use political weapons, it's a political suicide, because that shifts the whole rhetoric into a completely different area. And for them to use it in such an area that does not gain them any political or military gain on that scale, it sounds a bit contradictory and very, very difficult to comprehend. When I was listening to your BBC correspondent, or the gentleman who was responsible for analyzing the materials, he was stratifying the functioning groups in Syria into three groups, and I have every emphasis to make on the fact that whatever they are called, the Free Syrian Army or the Al-Nusra Front, they are functioning in the same capacity. They are announcing the same aims.
Okay.
It's very difficult now. It's very difficult to believe that the Syrian government has an interest in striking the civil life and bombing bakeries, for example.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there, Doctor, but we appreciate you joining us, and thank you very much for that. The debate, of course, as always, continues online on Twitter, #WHYS, and on Facebook. We'd love to hear what you think about the situation in Syria. Mahenzin from Sweden tweets, "What happened in Syria is inhumane and outrageous." Keep the debate carrying on with us. And Nahin Ali from Dhaka posts on Facebook, "Rebels are fighting to kick Assad. Assad is fighting to kick the rebels. Who is fighting for peace for the Syrian people?" I'm Babita Sharma. Thanks for being with us.